The morning dew had barely settled on the grass of Leimert Park in Los Angeles on January 15, 1947, when a passerby made a discovery that would permanently shatter the post-war illusion of safety. The body of a young woman, posed with chilling calculation, lay mere feet from the sidewalk in a vacant lot. How does a human being vanish into the bustling heart of a metropolis, only to reappear as the centerpiece of a macabre public display? This haunting question forms the core of the enduring mystery surrounding Elizabeth Short. Before the headlines reduced her to a sensationalized moniker, Elizabeth Short was a 22-year-old woman navigating the precarious promises of Hollywood. She possessed a striking appearance, characterized by pale skin and dark hair, often adorned with a white flower. Like thousands of others flocking to California in the aftermath of the Second World War, she harbored aspirations of cinematic success, drifting between temporary lodgings and fleeting acquaintances. Her final verified movements trace back to the opulent lobby of the Biltmore Hotel on the evening of January 9, 1947, stepping out into the cool night air, never to be seen alive again. The reality of her discovery 6 days later remains one of the most unsettling chapters in American criminal history. Betty Bersinger, walking with her young daughter, initially mistook the pale figure in the weeds for a discarded store mannequin. The perpetrator had bisected the victim at the waist, draining the body entirely of blood, and meticulously washing the remains before posing them with deliberate, terrifying symmetry. According to official Los Angeles Police Department records, the sheer theatricality of the disposal suggested a killer who wanted his handiwork to be found and admired. Almost immediately, the sight devolved into a chaotic spectacle, severely hindering the solution of this high-profile murder. Reporters, photographers, and curious onlookers trampled the vacant lot long before a secure police perimeter could be established. This catastrophic failure compromised the chain of custody, a fundamental legal principle requiring the meticulous documentation and secure handling of evidence from the moment of discovery to its presentation in court. Footprints were obliterated, potential tire tracks were driven over, and the pristine isolation of the killer's chosen stage was forever contaminated by the crush of the crowd. The subsequent autopsy revealed a harrowing level of precision that baffled medical examiners. The bisection had been performed utilizing a procedure taught in the 1930s, slicing cleanly through the lumbar spine without shattering the bone. This specific modus operandi, defined as a distinct pattern or method of operation characteristic of a particular criminal, strongly indicated that the perpetrator possessed advanced anatomical knowledge or surgical training. Yet, despite identifying this crucial behavioral signature, investigators struggled to narrow down a suspect pool in a city teeming with medical professionals and returning combat medics. As details leaked from the morgue to the press room, a vicious media frenzy ignited. The Los Angeles Herald-Express and other competing dailies capitalized on the grim spectacle, christening the victim the Black Dahlia, a dark play on a popular film title of the era. This branding stripped Elizabeth Short of her humanity, transforming a brutalized young woman into a pulp fiction caricature designed to sell newspapers. The intense public pressure to solve the case paradoxically became the very obstacle that derailed the pursuit of truth. The relentless publicity generated an unprecedented wave of false confessions. Over the following decades, more than 500 individuals would step forward to claim responsibility for the crime, forcing detectives to squander thousands of hours verifying impossible claims. Each false lead required rigorous vetting, diverting critical resources away from viable avenues of inquiry during the crucial early days when the trail was warmest. Early investigative failures were compounded by this deluge of noise, burying the actual killer's faint signal beneath a mountain of public pathology. A chilling breakthrough seemed imminent on January 21st, when a mysterious package arrived at the offices of the Los Angeles Examiner. The envelope contained Elizabeth Short's birth certificate, business cards, photographs, and an address book with the name Mark Hansen embossed on the cover. The sender had carefully wiped the items with gasoline to eliminate fingerprints, demonstrating a calculated awareness of forensic techniques. A message composed of letters cut from newspaper clippings read, "Here is Dahlia's belongings, letter to follow." And investigators immediately focused on Robert Manley, a 25-year-old salesman known as Red, who had driven the victim from San Diego to Los Angeles on the day she vanished. As the last person confirmed to have seen her alive at the Biltmore Hotel, Manley fit the profile of a suspect of opportunity. Detectives subjected him to intense interrogations and multiple polygraph examinations, probing for any inconsistency in his account of their final hours together. However, Manley possessed a rock-solid alibi, a verifiable claim or piece of evidence demonstrating that a suspect was elsewhere when an act took place. Witnesses and receipts confirmed his presence far from the locations associated with the crime during the critical window of the victim's disappearance. After successfully passing truth verification tests, Manley was definitively cleared by the authorities, leaving the police back at square one with a rapidly cooling trail. The most maddening void in the narrative remains the missing week. Between her departure from the Biltmore Hotel on January 9th and the discovery of her remains on January 15th, Elizabeth Short effectively ceased to exist in the public record. Did she seek shelter with someone she knew from the Hollywood nightclub scene, or was she abducted by a stranger shortly after stepping onto the pavement? Reconstructing those final days became an obsession for detectives, yet every supposed sighting proved ephemeral, dissolving upon closer inspection. The pristine nature of the Leimert Park location presented another baffling riddle. Because the body had been drained of blood and washed elsewhere, investigators knew they were dealing with a secondary disposal site. The primary location, the actual room or facility where the horrifying acts were committed, was never found. Finding a space capable of facilitating such a gruesome murder, complete with drainage and absolute privacy, within the densely populated confines of 1940s Los Angeles, seemed an impossible task. A palpable dread settled over the sun-drenched streets of Southern California. The brutal reality of the crime shattered the post-war optimism that had fueled the region's rapid expansion. Women traveling alone began walking in pairs, locking their doors with a new sense of urgency, realizing that the glamorous facade of the city concealed predatory shadows. The unsolved status of the case served as a lingering reminder that a monster walked freely among them, hidden behind the veneer of everyday life. Decades later, attention shifted toward Dr. George Hodel, a prominent Los Angeles physician with a dark, complex personal life and ties to the surrealist art movement. Hodel ran a clinic specializing in venereal diseases, granting him the precise surgical skills matching the killer's profile. Proponents of this theory point to the striking similarities between the posing of the victim's remains and the fragmented, distorted artwork of Man Ray, a close friend of Hodel who frequently visited his imposing, fortress-like residence. In 1950, the district attorney's office considered Hodel a prime suspect, going so far as to plant hidden microphones within his sprawling home. The resulting audio transcripts, preserved in archival records, captured terrifying, albeit ambiguous, statements. In one recording, Hodel is heard remarking that even if he did kill the Black Dahlia, they could not prove it now because his secretary was dead. Despite these chilling admissions, the recorded evidence was deemed insufficient to secure an indictment. Before law enforcement could build a definitive case, Dr. Hodel abruptly abandoned his medical practice and relocated to Asia, placing himself beyond the immediate reach of American authorities. The failure to detain him remains one of the most fiercely debated early investigative failures of the era. Some historians argue that widespread corruption within the department, coupled with Hodel's connections to high-ranking officials, allowed a viable suspect to slip quietly into the night, forever hindering the solution of the case. Beyond the suspects and the sensationalism lies the profound human tragedy inflicted upon the victim's family. As reported by contemporary journalists, reporters from the Los Angeles Examiner contacted Phoebe Short in Massachusetts, initially lying to the mother by claiming her daughter had won a beauty contest. Only after extracting personal background information did the reporters cruelly reveal the truth of her daughter's mutilation. This callous manipulation highlights the devastating collateral damage inflicted when a private grief is consumed by public spectacle. Another lingering shadow in the case files belongs to Mark Hansen, the wealthy nightclub owner whose name was embossed on the address book mailed to the newspaper. Hansen had previously allowed the victim to stay at his home and was deeply embedded in the periphery of her social circle. According to lead investigators of the time, Hansen's contradictory statements regarding his final interactions with her raised significant red flags, yet the circumstantial evidence never coalesced into a prosecutable offense. The address book itself became an artifact of immense frustration. When authorities received the small gasoline-soaked booklet, several pages had been carefully torn out from the binding. What names, addresses, or appointments were recorded on those missing sheets? The deliberate removal suggests the killer knew the victim intimately or feared that a specific entry would lead detectives straight to their door, forever obscuring a vital link in the evidentiary chain. The sheer volume of the physical case file is staggering, representing one of the largest investigative efforts in the history of the department. Detectives interviewed thousands of individuals, chased down license plate numbers across state lines, and cross-referenced endless hotel registries. Yet within this mountain of paperwork, the critical thread connecting the victim to her executioner remains hidden, a needle lost within a haystack of dead ends and forgotten testimonies. The investigation fundamentally altered the landscape of American true crime, establishing a dark blueprint for the modern media circus. It demonstrated how the intersection of a gruesome murder, a glamorous setting, and an unsolved cold case could captivate the national consciousness indefinitely. The tragedy was commodified, transformed into a cultural touchstone that inspired countless novels, films, and speculative theories, often at the expense of the factual record and the dignity of the deceased. Today, the case remains officially open, a chilling testament to the limitations of mid-century forensic science and the destructive power of a compromised crime scene. While modern DNA analysis and advanced profiling techniques could likely resolve the mystery in days, the physical evidence from 1947 has long since degraded, been lost, or destroyed. The passage of time has silenced the witnesses, buried the suspects, and erased the physical traces of the perpetrator. It is crucial to look past the macabre mythology and remember the individual at the center of the storm. Elizabeth Short was not a fictional character destined for a tragic end, but a young woman seeking her place in a rapidly changing world. Her violent erasure from that world and the subsequent failure of the justice system to hold anyone accountable represents a profound societal failure that resonates far beyond the confines of a vacant lot. The silence surrounding her final hours is absolute. We are left to wonder about the sequence of events that led her from the warmth of a hotel lobby into the hands of a meticulous, calculating killer. Was it a crime of sudden, explosive passion disguised by post-mortem staging, or a deeply premeditated act of sadistic theater? The archival records offer only shadows, reflecting our own fears back at us without providing the comfort of a resolution. The Black Dahlia case stands as a grim monument to the elusive nature of truth when obscured by time, error, and public obsession. It reminds us that some mysteries are destined to stay cold, their secrets guarded by the ghosts of a bygone era. Until new evidence miraculously emerges from the archives, the brutal 1947 murder of Elizabeth Short will remain Hollywood's most haunting unsolved enigma, a dark reflection of justice forever denied.